Mercedes has just unveiled the E53, the AMG version of the E-Class, and it looks so much better than the normal E-Class. AMG has this tendency to just tweak a little bit of design features and turn it into a completely different car. So what we're going to do in this video though, even though it is a beautiful looking car, I'm still confused about the front end graphics and specifically the rear end graphics. This starlight that we have inside of this very organic housing. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tweak a bit some of the proportions, but mostly focus on the front and rear graphics, and I'm gonna redesign that into a more of a structured look for the E-Class. So here we have it. First of all, let's talk about this design, and then once we jump into the redesign, I'm gonna let you know more about this spec and tech, because keep in mind this is just the E53, and the drivetrain of this thing is just a proper beast, so I can't wait to see what the E63 is gonna be like. So up top we do have the front view, side view, rear, and also the interior of the new 2025 AMG E53. What I like about this design that the AMG division did with this is they added the Panamericana grille. And this grille with these bars look 100 times better than the normal grille that we have in the E-Class. And I also love that they blacked out this piece, because even if you have the AMG package on the normal E-Class, this little section that you can see, this framing that goes around the grille, is still in chrome. So I'm glad that they blacked everything out except for the logo in the front end. And I'm totally fine with that. It's still a Mercedes, so having a Mercedes logo in chrome just feels sort of right to me still. But look at the headlights here and this connection with the grille. We have the grille here cutting in and connecting with the headlight design like we have in the EQ series of Mercedes. And I think it looks pretty good in this case because it doesn't look too flush with everything in the front end surface like they do on the EQ series. Here we do have a little bit more of a definition. So what I want to do here in the front end redesign, you see these squiggly lines in the bottom, the LEDs. What I want to do is just straighten this out. So I want to have a straight line here, and then I want to have the graphics of the internal pieces of the headlights. I want to have that follow this line, so we have almost two lines. And I think that would be cool because in the past we had the C-Class having one LED, then you have the E-Class having two LEDs, and then the big S-Class had three LEDs. So having two LED strips like this in the E-Class, I feel it suits this overall design. And in addition to that, I'm also going to add a chamfer down here. So create a housing for this new graphics that we're going to create, because I want to bring back and save the chamfers. I'm going away now, but I love chamfers in car design. That's one of the reasons why I think Rivian does such a great job with their designs, because they have chamfers across every single key graphics, and I think it's a beautiful design feature. I'm also going to keep this black section here and maybe tweak this a little bit to have it be more straight in the lower section. Small details on the front end of the E-Class. I love these wheels. I just want to show you the side view here. AMG also makes some of the, or Mercedes in general, just makes some of the best looking wheels in the business right now. Look at this shoulder line as well. We have one shoulder line sharp here, cutting into the door, and then fades in this area. We have a calm ocean right here of surfacing in the middle, and then it comes back in the rear end as well, cutting in to the top corner of the taillight right there. And also AMG added this trunk spoiler, which I think makes a huge difference to this design, because now you can see if we sketch out the roof line here, it now has a very, very nice send-off shooting up right there in the rear end. If you remove this rear spoiler, it becomes a very slopey looking rear end. So I want to have a sharp corner up top to sort of define the end point of the rear end. You can see it more clearly here, of course, with this beautiful carbon fiber little spoiler up top. Now looking at these taillights, this is also something I want to change. First of all, you see this angle that we have? It's a curvature that goes inwards. So I want to stretch this outwards a little bit to have the corner be more defined. Old school 90s, early 2000s Mercedes with a little bit more of a boxy shape in the rear end. I'm also going to change these taillights because, as you can see, we have a star pattern in here. And then look at the outline of the taillight itself. It's very organic and fluid, and the internal pieces just has zero connection to the outline of the taillight itself. So this is something that I want to change. And further down low, we do have this diffuser. Doesn't look too aggressive, and it also sits flush with the bodywork. So what I'm going to do down here is to add a chamfer onto this and also maybe straighten it out like this. The E53 having the round tailpipes, I do think the E63 is going to square these out a little bit more, something like this. Now, last but not least, we're not going to redesign the interior, but I just want to show you this interior because I think overall, it's a pretty beautiful interior. It looks like a proper luxury cockpit to me. And even if I were to just buy the normal E-Class, I would still 100% get the AMG package for the simple reason that we get this stunning wheel. The steering wheel of the AMG looks so much better than the steering wheel that we have on the non-AMG version. I do love all types of wheels that Mercedes are doing right now. We also have this gauge cluster right here, which I think it's a lot better implemented than the BMWs, because we do have some corners here and radiuses in the corners. Even though it doesn't have a proper housing to it, it still looks pretty good. And here you can see this super screen that I do think will become standard in the US for the E53. Looks pretty cool, but I still wish we had more physical buttons. At least the climate control settings are always static down here at the bottom, so you can quickly reach them whenever you want to change the temperature and so on. And also the carbon fiber pieces that we have in the AMG versions just look fantastic, in addition to this ambient lighting that we have going on all across this interior. Just looking at the interior, you can sense a feeling of quality with all the material choices that they added in the E53. Now let's jump in to the redesign here. I'm going to show you the before and after in the very end. But while we do this redesign, let's talk about some of the spec and tech of the new 2025 Mercedes AMG E53. So again, keep in mind that this is the E53. So we have a 3-liter twin-turbo 6-cylinder and an electric motor producing 567 horsepower. That is without the optional Dynamic Plus package. If you go with that, it goes up to 603 horsepower. And this is just insane numbers. So the E53 of 2025 is actually more powerful than the previous E63. And that has me thinking that the next generation, 2025 or 2026 E63, is going to be an absolute beast when that comes out. If the E53 is already more powerful than the previous E63. They also worked a lot on the drivetrain here and improved the electric functionalities of this car. So you have a range of 62 miles in pure EV mode. You can also drive it on the highway because you can drive it in full electric mode in up to 87 miles per hour. And that means that if you wanted to, you could probably daily drive this as an EV. But the notion that you always have the big 3-liter inline 6 with 429 horsepower always available to you, that just does something to the mentality of driving this car. You know it's not a full EV, but if you want to, you can use it as that. And when you need to, you just push the gas and fire up the big internal combustion engine. I think this is a fantastic drivetrain. I do love this setup when you have a proper electric motor in addition to an internal combustion engine. I do think that is the optimal solution for performance cars right now. 0 to 60 is claimed by AMG to be done in 3.8 seconds, which if you think about it, 603 horsepower and 0 to 60 time in 3.8 seconds. It doesn't sound too impressive, but you have to keep in mind that this is probably a very heavy car with all the technology and the drivetrain that they put into this thing. So 3.8 seconds is still pretty fast for what it is. Top speed without the Dynamic Plus package is limited to 155 miles per hour. And I think this will just hit 155 miles per hour as it hits a wall and then starts to slow down because it's so powerful. Because if you choose the Dynamic Plus package, the top speed goes up to 174 miles per hour. They also improved the charging rate. So now you have a 60 kilowatt DC fast charging, 10 to 80% in as little as 20 minutes, which is great. So as I said, you can still use this as a regular EV should you choose to do that. Now it does look a lot more muscular than the normal E-Class. It's also 0.4 inches wider on each side than the normal E-Class. You have quad tailpipes, a new spoiler on the trunk lid, but they still saved some of this aggressive styling for the E63 whenever that comes out. And the US spec hasn't been finalized yet, and it is possible that the Super Screen will be standard here. The pricing, AMG says that they will just bump the price a little bit over the previous E53 from 2022, which cost $82,000. So you can expect this to be maybe around 85 or something like that. So let's jump into the redesign here and let's see what's going on with this design. So top view, we have the front end, and down low, of course, we have the rear end. In the top view, as I said, I wanted to create more of a horizontal line for the starting point of the key graphics. The headlight going in to the grille. We have the beautiful Panamericana grille, which I'm obviously not gonna redesign because I think that just changes this design completely from the normal E-Class. And I want to straighten out the lower section of the headlights and also create a beautiful little chamfer underneath there that follows the lower section of the headlight and also follows the side of the grille before it fades before meeting the lower part of the bumper. In addition to that, I also tweaked the proportions just a tiny bit because I wanted to stretch out the corners and make it more boxy. Not too boxy though, but still this W124 vibe in the proportions in the front. And I also did the same thing for the rear end. Now working here with the graphics, again, I want to have it be more straight because this is not a C-Class. If it's a C-Class, you can design it more, you can have more stylized curvatures and organic feel in it. This being the middle sibling, the E-Class, right below the S-Class, I want to have a little bit more structure than what we have here, and also change the internal pieces of the taillight to have them be more in line with the outline itself of the taillight. And again, bring back the chamfers for key graphics components, and that's exactly what I did in the rear as well. Just add a tiny bit of a chamfer going underneath the taillight. In addition to that, as again, I stretched out the corner, make it a bit more boxy in the rear, and also straighten out the lower diffuser and added a subtle little chamfer right above the diffuser to have it have a housing and make it feel like it's welcomed in the rear end and that it's actually supposed to be there. Not just have a flush connection from the bodywork into the diffuser. In between there, I want to have a tiny bit of a diffuser. So those are the small changes I want to do to the E-Class. So have a look at the before and after here. This is the before, looking very still a beautiful looking car. I'm just a little bit confused by the graphics. And here we have the after. So I'm going to toggle between these two so you can see the changes. Very small changes, but I do think it suits the E-Class to be a bit more geometric and static in the front end compared to the smaller sibling, which is the C-Class.